Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Geraint Bruton. I'm the Clean Fuels Business Manager for BOC. I'm going to talk about hydrogen as a fuel to help to decarbonise, improve air quality and reduce noise in the construction sectors. I'm just going to talk for a couple of minutes just to introduce hydrogen. I'm going to show a video and then hand over to Andrew Barker at TCP to talk about the products and services that they can offer. I guess hydrogen's been mentioned a little bit already this afternoon. I think the first point to make is that hydrogen's an energy carrier, so you can produce hydrogen from natural gas or from electricity. If you're using renewable power, then you can consider that hydrogen as being a low carbon or a green fuel. You can then either use that hydrogen in an internal combustion engine or into a fuel cell to make electricity. If you're using a fuel cell, then it's zero emission at point of use. The only emission is water, and it's also quiet. Hydrogen has a higher energy density than batteries, so that means for a given weight you can achieve either a longer range on your vehicle or a longer operating time on a piece of machinery. And it also has a fast refuel time, so that transfer of energy into the vehicle or the machinery is quicker. So overall, when we look at these features of how it can be zero emission, high energy density, fast refueling time, we see hydrogen as working really well in heavy duty applications, heavy duty demanding applications, as you see in the construction sector. I should say. A couple of pictures there just on the screen for you, showing some of the applications, products that we see being developed today for use in construction. So you see a photo there of a CCTV system, lighting. I'm just going to talk about in a little while. A fuel cell being used to provide power and heat to a construction site, and material handling. So we're going to show the video now and then hand over to Andrew to talk about what they do.
The UK government released its first ever hydrogen strategy on the 17th of August 2021, a vision which would unlock £4 billion of investment in hydrogen production, storage and usage by 2030. The strategy recognises hydrogen has a vital role to play in our future energy system, and how the development of a hydrogen economy would help provide the UK with both a clean, resilient energy system and huge economic benefits. With the recent COP26 forum once again highlighting how serious the need is to reverse the current climate change trend, hydrogen development and production is now building at an unprecedented rate. The technology is today becoming widely available. We can use hydrogen to produce clean energy for our cars and goods vehicles, heat our homes, and power our industries.
I'd view hydrogen as the enabler. It's the enabler to a renewable and a sustainable future, frankly. It allows you to store energy in a way that is different from, say, in a battery, which has a limited life, which degrades through temperature and over time.
I believe in technology. I believe that we've got to do things to reduce climate change and air quality. I believe very strongly in that, but the solutions have to be realistic. We don't want solutions that are good in the laboratory but don't translate to the real world, and that's why it's great to be working in the fuel cell industry, because I believe that this is a sustainable solution to a massive problem that the world has.
So if you think about a fuel cell, the type of fuel cell that we have in vehicles, something we call a proton exchange membrane fuel cell, the way that it works is by really mimicking what happens in the environment around us, where hydrogen as a gas is brought together with oxygen that's in the air, and the two are combined to create water, And in that process, it releases electricity. That's the same process, to a large degree, that you find in nature, in photosynthesis.
So over the last five, maybe 10 years, we've seen the change from demonstration projects to now the start of mass use and mass commercialisation of heavy-duty fuel cell vehicles.
TCP many years ago recognised that hydrogen very much would be a fuel of the future. We're at an exciting time in history where all of the technology and the political will and the cultural will are coming together. Hydrogen has been used in industrial processes for many, many years.
Hydrogen as an industry has been fighting for its place as a leader in energy for much longer than you might expect. In 1766, English physicist Henry Cavendish discovered hydrogen gas for the first time by reacting zinc metal with hydrochloric acid. The industry has come an incredibly long way since then. Local and city authorities and industry up and down the country are already reaping the benefits of this alternative supply of energy.
Haskell specialises in the creation, movement and storage of very high pressure gases and liquids. This is probably the most exciting time you could pick to be in hydrogen. Exciting and nerve-wracking a little bit because it's growing so fast. There's already 70 million tonnes per year of hydrogen produced and used predominantly in the production of ammonia, predominantly for fertiliser. One of the neatest things about hydrogen as a fuel for your vehicle is that the refueling experience is exactly the same. You roll up, you take the nozzle off the dispenser, you stick the nozzle in your car, you pull the trigger, it fills, you drive off.
So when we talk about blending, basically what we're doing is we're taking natural gas from the network, blending up to 20% hydrogen into that natural gas, and then reintroducing that back into the network. The reason we're looking at hydrogen is that when you burn it, there are no emissions. When we look at natural gas, it's predominantly made up of methane, which is made up of carbon. When you burn it, it releases CO2 to the atmosphere. What we identified is that customers are, interested and they want to do something to help reduce their emissions. And I think one of the things that benefits customers is that they can reduce their emissions by not doing anything different if we introduce a blend.
As a nation, we are currently reliant on natural gas to heat our homes and businesses, and oil-based fuel to power our transport industry, all of which, when burned, creates CO2 that's then released into the atmosphere and is constantly contributing to the warming of our planet. But what exactly do you need to consider before starting to implement the use of hydrogen?
The most important and fundamental topic when discussing the introduction of a new project that is going to be using hydrogen is to decide first and foremost where the hydrogen is coming from. What is the supply that we have in place, and how is that going to be sustained, maintained and increased in the future as demand increases?
What we've learned through oil and gas is that if you have a strong supply chain anchored in your region, then that can help with that diversification piece. So that's what Aberdeen has looked at. How can we bring the technology here? How can we learn, get experience around how it works and the innovation that will be required to really scale that up? I'm proud of the fact that Aberdeen has been at the forefront of hydrogen for over 10 years now. We've had a hydrogen strategy that we drew up for the city in 2015. And as a local authority, we want to make sure we can work with the public and private sector together to really push forward with that hydrogen agenda.
BOC is the UK's leading producer of industrial gases. We've been producing hydrogen for more than 100 years. Transport from emissions contributes about a quarter of the UK's overall CO2 emissions. We believe hydrogen is going to be part of the solution. At BOC's hydrogen refuelling site in Aberdeen, we take renewable power and we convert that to hydrogen through a process called electrolysis, where we separate the water into hydrogen and oxygen, and that hydrogen then can be used to refuel vehicles.
I think they're definitely healthier to drive. You don't get that sort of backwash of fumes that you sometimes get Even if you're behind another vehicle and it's one of these, it's really nice. You don't get that smell. And the refueling wise is brilliant. It's quite simple to do. You don't get greasy because obviously diesel's oil based, so it's a lot cleaner for us as drivers to sort of fuel the vehicles as well.
Battery electric can solve a lot of problems, but it can't solve everything, and hydrogen fuel cell has the ability to fill that gap. This bus is a drop-in replacement for a diesel bus. There's no changes to schedules that you have. You have fast fueling, you have the range of the bus, so we can have a drop-in replacement for a diesel. It can do the job of a bus. A bus's job is to move people from A to B, and if we can do that zero emission, we can do it zero emission, we're doing it today, then that's what we should be doing.
There has been a lot of comment around hydrogen safety, but there are already robust protocols in place, as industry has been using millions of tons of hydrogen in rocket fuel, oil refineries, and fertilizer production for decades. Hydrogen storage tanks in fuel cell cars are subject to rigid testing standards, such as crash testing and exposure to extreme temperatures and pressures before they can be deployed. These are just a few examples of the standards and codes that have supported the safety of hydrogen production.
A lot of people think hydrogen is unsafe because we've got things like the Hindenburg in history or James Bond films where fuel cells spectacularly blow up.
The hydrogen that was in that balloon would have burnt off in seconds. What we see on film is actually the structure burning for some time.
You've got to remember, hydrogen is not toxic. And the amount that we use in vehicles is actually really relatively small. We don't give a second thought to exploding petrol or diesel in vehicles that in everyday life, sitting on tanks of open fuel, which is toxic and poisonous.
Murphy's ambition is to reduce our carbon footprint as much as possible. We've got no worries whatsoever about using hydrogen cells. The hydrogen in the tanks is so light, it's virtually impossible to set it on fire, even with a spark. There is no more danger than using a diesel generator. A diesel generator can catch fire, they can short, cause you real issues.
It's just a little bit of education that's needed. Read up on how safe this fuel actually is and the benefits of using it. I think it's probably the way forward.
Hydrogen is a safe and abundant energy store. It can be kept indefinitely, shipped around the world without energy loss, and when used, does not release carbon dioxide. We've learned over the last century how to harness the power of the hydrogen atom. And this is only the beginning.
I think we shouldn't ignore the fact that reduction of any emissions is better than a high level of emissions. So transitioning should be part of that roadmap.
So what we have to focus on now is more the low-hanging fruit, really, what we can actually achieve now, the infrastructure that we can put out now and help to deploy some of these projects that are really in their infancy at this moment.
There is no future without hydrogen if we're trying to reduce our carbon emissions. The fact of the matter is, without hydrogen, there are certain industries that won't be able to continue without natural gas.
I would say to local authorities who are maybe thinking about this type of technology moving forward, it not only helps you with the economic targets that you may have, but it certainly will help you with the environmental targets that each and every local authority in Scotland have had to set themselves.
I'm looking into the future for my grandkids of what we're going to leave behind, and the more carbon neutral that we can become, the better it is for us, the better for the environment.
The most striking thing for me is that this is the first job I've ever had where my kids actually care what I do and they ask me what I'm doing, and they even tell me what else is going on in hydrogen around the world.
So the time to go zero emission is now. Hydrogen fuel cell technology is a vital part of that transition from fossil fuels into zero emission transport.
Afternoon all. Andrew Barker, Managing Director of Taylor Construction Plant. Hopefully that film has shown you that hydrogen is in use every day of the week and used safely. As a business, we made the decision back in 2015 that we would back hydrogen as an energy vector. And what we did was look at the load, and all the time we're invited to look at applications, we look at the load. So we're looking to get hydrogen used where there's a kilowatt load that is maybe up to a kilowatt as a continuous load, or 5 kilowatts on a 20% duty cycle. So every day of the week we're out there with the cylinders that you saw on the film there. Many hundreds of light towers out there working, and other applications such as CCTV and monitoring systems. The important message that we want to get across today is that it is actually here today. We've talked about it being a future fuel, but for those small wattage applications, hydrogen can be adopted and used today, and is readily available. There's several machines outside that we've got that are running on hydrogen. We're keen to engage with any parties in the room that want to start on that journey, that also want to partner on looking at power applications they've got where hydrogen could do the job. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to the question and answer session.